up there. They've been called out onto the States. The States used to run out on the River Tyne, just over there. That actually shut in 1860. Okay, it was backfilled at the top, and then it was filled in at this end. A bit more was taken out when they built the Glasshouse Bridge. That's the red brick bridge which runs over the Tyne Bar, you see over there. And it was kind of mothballed, and it was forgotten about. Okay, until the 1930s. In the 1930s, things were starting to heat up in mainland Europe again. Hitler and Mussolini had started to supply arms for the Spanish Civil War, and we were starting to get rather worried in this country. And so our Prime Minister of the day, Neville Chamberlain, in 1938 popped over to see Adolf Hitler and have a little chat to say, what's going on, Adolf? Came back waving a bit of paper, if you know your history, saying peace in our time. That didn't last long, because in 1939 Germany invaded Poland. We declared war on Germany. So here we are back at war just 21 years after the war apparently to end all wars, which was the First World War, which ended in 1918. And we had to prepare for things here because things had moved on an awful lot technologically speaking. They had better planes, they had better armaments, and we knew that. So we had to think about where they're going to get over to us quite regularly probably, and we're going to be bombed heavily. So we had to start thinking where we're going to be able to shelter people. Okay. Personal shelters that they devised were these. These were for your houses, alright? That is a Morrison shelter. It's an incredibly good bit of kit, this. We have a lady who talks to the schools when they come in. She's in her 90s. I'm not sure if she's stopped doing it now. She was 4 years old down in London, and she was in one of these when the house came down on top of the family. But they did dig them out after a couple of days, and they were fine. Alright? The thing with the Morrison shelter is it's incredibly heavy. It can only be used on the ground floor of houses, and the types of housing that you had. Come on then, head on down guys. That's not that. Look out, look at that. Don't worry, you can't get lost. Alright everybody. Right, it took them 2 weeks of lifting manhole covers. What do you think they saw when they looked down through the ceiling into this tunnel? Forget about this bit, this was put in after that. What would you see under this floor? Because it's still under this floor.
Just coal, probably.
No, you would see railway track.
Right, okay.
It was for the wagons to run on, alright? There's a Stevenson gauge railway under this floor, 4 foot 8.5 inches wide. They used to have to put the wagons on them to bring them through, down to the river, okay? They had to put the floor down. All in the middle wall, this thing, was put in by students back in the 60s. They wanted to put lasers through for measurements, so they drilled holes in each one of those middle walls, alright? Everybody okay, Spill?
Yeah.
Well, you both are. I'm assuming you are. I mean, you've been in, didn't you say you've been in another tunnel to keep our supplies in, but that meant you could be in wide like that. You could lay people on if they had to do any work on them, if they've been injured in any way. Alright. The hooks you can see coming out of the wall, they are for that very reason to hang hurricane lamps on. You know why they're called hurricane lamps?
Because I'm working a hurricane.
Exactly. The wind won't blow them up. You put your paraffin in the bottom, the wick's behind the glass, you light that, and then it won't go out. Okay. The type, this tongue and groove you can see on here is probably from a bombed out house or an old shed. They've strapped it on the wall to put the switches on for the cabling. The switches are made from the original plastic, which is of course Bakelite, I'm sure you all know. Televisions, telephones are made from Bakelite. Okay. Right, it's a blackout outside, okay, so just to give you an idea of a blackout, put your torches off, lads. Oh, that's that house on the corner, look. When it was in use. Go on. Yeah, it's very different here. The reason it's like this is there's a building directly above here called Lime Square. They were building that around about 20 years ago, about that period. And what they had to do is put that building on piles because they knew the tunnel was here. And they were trying to sink piles down either side, about 20 foot either side of the tunnel, to put their foundations on top of, to straddle the tunnel so they didn't crush it. But apparently nobody had told them they were sinking those piles into boulder clay, which is exactly why the tunnel's here in the first place. It was dug through boulder clay. I'll get on about that later on. And what they've done is they've hit a big boulder when they've sunk a pile and they pushed it through the side of the tunnel, and it's partly collapsed this section, okay? Because that's the weak part of the tunnel, all right? Now, we didn't know it had this problem until a party came around that corner and we had to get people out. It shut the tunnel for a few years. It cost us over £6 million to get this little section fixed. There's a steel cage in here, and this is called ferro concrete. This is the sort of stuff they use on power stations. Right, it's incredibly strong. It's got a 2,000-year guarantee, this section of the tunnel. Alright, so if we're going through there and a brick lands on your head and you see me passing you, I'm coming in here because it's safe as houses in here. Your problem, of course, is if it collapses through there, and it's already collapsed through there, you ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Alright, so
we shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
we've had a bit of a clean up actually. Yeah, what this is what's happening, it's hollow because there's another tunnel directly above this section. That served the Quayside Railway. The Quayside Railway ran down from where the Manners Metro Station is now, from that area, down across the top of our tunnel, ran down onto the river, turned right along the river. Some of you might remember the railway tracks along the quayside. I remember them when I was living here at the beginning of the 80s. And then it used to go along to about where the Pitch and Piano pub is, Millennium Bridge, and then it would hang right over the City Road and up to the Manners Goodyard. Right? They shut that track in 1969, and all they did was seal up their tunnel. The problem is that tunnel fills full of water, and that water eventually drains into here. So we get this on the walls. This is not a problem. This is just a calcite. It's a bit like your stalagmites and stalactites, the stuff you see in caves. That ain't the problem. The problem is the brown stuff. The brown stuff is from the iron and what have you. Yeah, it's an oxide. It's from the iron that's in that tunnel. The tracking, any signalling system is sort of rusting away and is seeping down into here. All right. The problem is it's a really messy stuff, and it gets on your clothes, it ruins them because you can't get it out. And if it gets on your hands, it stains it a bit like henna. Okay, so whatever you do, do not touch it. Keep it off your clothes. So when you walk through this bit, go left of centre, alright, because it really builds up on the right hand side. You can see it coming out of the wall there, you can see the water pouring through that one. That is be one railway track, and that will be the other railway track directly above there, so that's where the track ran. Alright, so go left to centre through here, alright, follow me. Up this part of the tunnel, there used to be a guy there called Gladstone Adams. The houses aren't there now, but there was a building where the house used to be with a plaque on, mentions Gladstone Adams. He was a guy from Whitley Bay. What had happened was he invented something you all use. He'd gone down to watch Newcastle in an FA Cup final. That's the most amazing part of the story. Newcastle win an FA Cup final. Playing Wolverhampton Wanderers in 1908. They got beat, I think 3-1 if I remember correctly. On his way back in his little car, he had to keep getting out to wipe snow off his windscreen. He came up with the windscreen wiper in around about 1911. His idea of the windscreen wiper is in the Discovery Museum in Newcastle. Nothing whatsoever to do with the tunnel, but there you go. Alright everybody, we're under everybody. I'm going to have to stop saying everybody if we used to. We're under Tarsett Street, okay? Unfortunately, there was a bit of an incident on Tarsett Street in late May 1941. What happened was between the 5th and 6th of May 1941, the Germans were over and they were trying to bomb the goods yard, and they ended up hitting the backs of the houses on Tarsus Street. The houses were slightly damaged, but they were still standing. The yards were badly damaged, but people were still living in the streets. I'm just going to grab these. Right, grab a seat for a second. But you don't trip up. Okay, everybody. You've now reached where you were aiming to get to, right? The seats and the beds didn't start till you got to here because they didn't consider you deep enough. That's why there's no more blast walls in that direction now until you get up towards the other end of the tunnel where they eventually kick in again when you get near the surface, okay? So you come around that corner, you'd see the beds, the seats, and all these white faces of the people coming in here. And the reason they've come in, they've heard the siren, and that's because the German Air Force, right, and that's basically what you did. Now, middle bunk was supposed to be for nursing mums or less able people to get up there or get down there. Okay, that's what that was for. The bottom bunk was supposed to be left empty for your auxiliary workers, like your wardens, or maybe the nurse needs to lie down. Anybody who's going to be on duty the next morning, like police, if they need to have a lie down, they're supposed to be left empty for those, okay? Didn't always work like that. This tunnel was open 24/7. You couldn't fling the doors open in case of rain. You didn't know when the air raids were going to be. The doors had to be left open. And what would happen is people would come in early in the day and get their towels on the beds. We were light years ahead of the Germans. Towels on beds, okay? You weren't supposed to do that. There were wardens in this tunnel. The holes you can see in the floor here is because when I said earlier they had to relay the floor, which is why it's 15 inches thick, it's because they couldn't take the furniture out. So they're the imprints of the beds. The ones near the middle, these ones are the beds. The ones near the wall are the seating, and it's rough on that side because they didn't get down to put it, they just swept it under the chairs and the beds, okay? So that's why it's rough. Right. So as you're walking along here now, it gives you a better idea of what the original Victorian structure was like, okay? Because the only thing different at this point, I can't change it, is the floor and the cabling and anything like that, okay? This is all, that's one. But all of this, take that out, you're walking on a track, alright? And it goes into corners and all sorts up here, okay? There's little curves in this tunnel. There is a reason for that, which I shall get to. Split into 33 sections, okay? The nursing station was section 33. This is section 27. There's only two numbers left that we can find in this part, and that's 27 and 26. That's the dividing line. So that's 28, 27, 26 is still there. So it gives you some idea of how long each section was, okay? But 26 is there still, right, on both sides. Right, here's section 26. So that is one section that you've just walked, okay? Right, this bit here, different again, okay? This bit is where we go under Hadrian's Wall. Alright, it's directly above here. Hadrian's Wall did go through the Ouseburn Valley, just by where our office was, that area. So that's about where we are now, okay? As you can see, the bricks have been made, bricks were made by women and children, and before they were baked, they left their fingerprints in some of them. There's some behind here as well, but there are some there. You can see the fingerprints of whoever made the bricks. They were generally women and children, piecework they used to do. But there's quite a few with fingerprints in. Okay, right, cool. War, and the idea was to make it more comfortable, to make it feel less damp. The problem is, what he didn't realise, this stuff does not breathe like bricks. The bricks absorb the moisture, this doesn't, so the moisture sits on the top. It's not very pleasant at all. Fortunately, he only did a small section. He only did this sort of little section here. That's because it was incredibly expensive to do. Alright? But they realised it wasn't really working. Okay? But that's why this bit's different. You can see an imprint of one of the chairs that was pulled off after the wall just here. Because the chairs and that were still there in the bed, and they had to pull them off the wall. Yeah, just here. It's one of the old benches. Ah, here we are, toilet section. Watch the little bits of concrete out on the floor. Okay, toilets. So, to use the toilets from where we would sit, you would have to come along here, all the way along here. This is where the first section of well, there was toilets in the garden apparently of where we came in, when you came into the shelter, and some off to the left at the bottom where all the other seats and bed seats were. Okay, but the next set was here. So what you had was 6 toilets here, 2, 2, and 2. The bits of concrete was simply to make them a bit steadier. The little post holes, where there used to be like a little curtain to try and give you a little bit of privacy, but that curtain only came up to about here. That toilet there is the gents' toilets, okay? And we know that because round the corner is the ladies. That used to say ladies, and there's an arrow there. That isn't too apparent there, but if you look on the other side of this wall, in this direction, clearly says gents with an arrow. Alright? Follow me around here. There you go, gents.
Where does this ramp go to then?
I was going to take you up there.
Okay.
Yeah, may as well. We've got time, nobody minds being a bit late. Right, we are now in the ladies' toilets. Okay, as you can see, there's things there. Okay, so that's going to be. Next thing to point out is that and that. A crucifix and a roll. If that is the roll of honour, it's Stewart, Edwards, Archibald, and Turner. The names are on there. Now we can't figure out who these people are, but it's exactly the same material as that crucifix. The reason the crucifix is there is because we're directly under a church, so they considered this consecrated ground. All right, and so they've obviously put that on, left the names, but we're unable to actually discover who these are. So it would have been, I'm assuming, during the World War II. I'm assuming, unless it happened over the top of those sandbags once as well, because it was really heavy rain. So you're going to be a little bit careful. Okay, that's an old El Sand toilet there, look, which is rusted. Right. Tell you what, let's go up this slope, eh? Do be careful on this slope, it's very slippy. Use the banister if you want, but I trust you to have a bit more sense and fall off if you can, because it is kind of a bit lethal. Right, there's a brick on this corner here. They were still constructing these entrances up till 1943. This is the last entrance they made, alright? It's 85 foot to the surface, this entrance, okay? The problem is they went through an awful lot getting there, because when they did these entrances, they didn't dig them from the inside out, because they might collapse the tunnel. They had to go from the inside in, and they didn't know where they were going to come out, alright? The one we came in was in somebody's garden. This one came out in the middle, but they've discovered a new mile castle, Hadrian's Wall. So, which is why we're now absolutely certain that that is the Roman spring wall, because they used to put the mile castles near springs and that so they could keep the soldiers supplied with water. Right. Oh. Come on. So this was a double entrance for this tunnel. The steps go up there, look, and in there as well. Alright, so the steps went out to the surface. Like I say, came out in the middle of the road by the Tanner's Arms. There's a manhole cover there, which is our emergency hatch now, which we go and check now and again. Have you done the emergency hatch before? Yeah. You'll have to do that. Alright, I normally check it, and I just climb out, shut it behind us, and then walk down through the streets. Yeah. But yeah, that comes out at the Tanner's pub. Okay. There's not much left of them, but this is like a blackout curtain, come gas curtain you see here. Alright, so that's what they're for. There's some of that section, I think, as well. Yeah, there, look, that wooden bit there. That's actually, they've still got the wood in that bit. So this is where they would keep like a blackout curtain, come gas curtain. But you had two, because then you came through one, they shut behind you, and then you came. How many people do you think were sheltering in this tunnel? Imagine coming down here with 900 and whatever other people, you know, it must have been pretty good. Not quite sure what these were, they've got a lintel above. Unless they started going through and then they changed their minds, but yeah, I must have got what they've done. Block them up. Go this way. Okay. Right. You okay, Stephen? Are you all dresses and what have you? They've got up there, they've discovered there's no more marquee. They've got 8 Newcastle children's lined up. For some reason they put coal in the first 4. The next 3 have been cleaned out and they put some temporary seating in and they put steps up for people to come. Just like that. That's the original piece of wood. It's a bit more like stone now. As my colleague Pete would say, first it was afraid, now it's petrified. You can see a hole in that wood. There used to be an eyelet in, a bit like that. And then what you had was like a piano type wire, ran all the way through from the stairs to the pit. At the pit it was attached to a little bell. A gentleman down on the stairs known as the rapper, it's known as the rapper system, we get on the 9th of June. William Coulson, he's down at that end. He's looking after the state, keeping people out the tunnel. On the 9th of June, 2 gentlemen turn up, Benjamin and Ralph Arkless. They want to come and look at the tunnel. A businessman had been onto them, asking them to have a look at it because he'd heard how much it cut the cost of getting the coal down. Alright. The reason is Benjamin and Ralph Arkless were in front, Ralph's at the front, and Benjamin Coulson's at the back. So we're just looking for faults. We were trying to get this as cheap as possible. Might get a bit of extra money off that businessman if we get it cheap. Big crack in the ceiling, Ralph. Make a note of that. 300 yards in. Otherwise it's not bad, is it? Now they're quite happy walking through. Coulson, what do we do? Matey?
Aye.
Blake. William, isn't it?
William, aye.
Good review on TripAdvisor. We don't get any funding for this thing.
Aye, aye.
And we're just, well, I'm a volunteer, so we're just volunteers. Because like Steve at the back there, if he starts doing this, you don't get paid, you know.
No.
I mean, you get paid travel money if you're travelling from any distance. Guys, just stick your helmets. Anyway, one of these hooks if you can find one. In fact, there's only one helmet up there. Right, two. Got that one. Your yellow one goes up on here, Steve.
Yeah.